Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session titled Water and Disasters from Glaciers to Sea. You may know that this year, 2025, is the International Year for Glacier Conservation. This is led by the government of Tajikistan. I really thank the country for its leadership. And this session is convened by high-level experts and leaders panel on water and disasters, Government of the Republic of Tajikistan, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, Tourism of Japan, and the UN Center for Regional Development. Thank you for the co-organizers. And this is an important session because you know all well the importance of the glaciers. If you take an example of the Hindu Kush Himalaya, those glaciers are home to the people, but also home to 2 billion people in terms of the water. So, but we have to think that these glaciers are connected to land, farms, forests, cities, and to the sea. But we still do not know how it is connected. And more importantly, how the climate change impact to glaciers are also affecting our lives in the downstreams. Today, we are going to discuss the connection. We are covering a few thousand kilometers from glacier to sea in just 90 minutes. If we are successful about that, you are the hero. Now, first of all, I'd like to invite the keynote speaker, His Excellency Mr. Jamshed Shoimzoda, the first Deputy Minister of Energy and Water Resources of the Republic of Tajikistan. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor, for giving me the floor. And you're absolutely right that in the 90 minutes, if we solve all problems with the glaciers, will be not hero, will be Superman and DC and AC, any word of the fantastic people. Let me try to be very briefly because after lunch it's very difficult to bring your attention. But in any case, the glaciers is very important in the water issues because the glacier is natural resource storage for the water, for fresh water. And I just want a small presentation regarding what's happening in this year regarding in the glaciers, because 2025 is very important year for the glaciers. And we have had conference and small information about this to you. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, it's my, of course, honor to welcome you on this side event, and thank you for having me here. And event very interesting name, Water and Disasters from Glaciers to Sea. I like to briefly share the main result of the high-level conference on glaciers preservation, which was held in May in Dushanbe. A meeting show how serious the problem of the melting glaciers and why the world must act together. Glaciers are one of the main sources of drinking water, but they are melting faster than even before. In Tajikistan, more than 1,300 glaciers last 50 years have already disappeared, and many more are shrinking. This threatens water supply, food security, and lives of the millions of people in our region and beyond. In the slide, you can see one of the biggest glaciers in the continents, the Fetchinka. Every year, we are losing 10 meters of these glaciers. The message is clear. Protecting glaciers is not only the duty of the mountain countries, it's a global responsibility. We must work together to shut down this dangerous process and protect our shared future. And some historical information based on our request. In Tajikistan request, based on the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly in the year 2025 was declared the International Year of Glaciers Preservation, and March 21 was proclaimed Water Glaciers Day. It's very natural because 21st of March was proclaimed World Glaciers Day, and we know that 22 of March is the World Water Day. It means the glaciers a little bit earlier than Water Day because it's a natural. A new United Nations Trust Fund in support of activities for glaciers preservation coordinated by the Secretary General was established. Based on the mandate of the resolution, Tajikistan hosted the first high-level international conference on glacier preservation. We all understanding that without the financing, our act is not make a big noise. That's why we are Tajikistan with all our partners trying to have this fund. We already put some small contribution to this international fund and trying to bring more attention to other partners. During the 3 days of the conference, we witnessed constructive dialogue, exchange of the best practice of scientific knowledges aimed to addressing one of the most pressing environmental challenges in our time, the rapid melting of the glaciers. We also heard important national and political statements, new ideas, and recommendations that once again confirming the significance of discussion adopting measures of glacier preservation at all levels. The conference highlighted the urgent need to address glaciers treatment by showcasing the latest scientific findings, conservation efforts, and the vital role for glaciers in freshwater supply, biodiversity, and climate regulation. In the past, the link between glaciers preservation and sustainable development, in particular for vulnerable regions, discussion, endorsement, and importance of glaciers in livelihood, water sustainability, and hazard reduction. The conference also helped mobilize political will to advance relevant goals of the 2030 agenda. The Dushanbe platform provides an opportunity to promote a comprehensive approach, the partnership in the field of glacier melt. The member and level of participants in the conference, over 2,300 participants from the 90 countries, respecting UN member states, UN entities, international regional organizations, international financial institutions, private sector, civil society, academia, scientific experts, local authorities, youth, advocates, and other stakeholders. The structure of the conference program includes 2 plenary sessions, 12 thematic sessions, 2 high-level roundtables, as well as pre-conference events, including 8 high-level forums and 18 side events. It should be highlighted that we are also very focusing to bring youth. We have a special forum of the youth and women before the conference, the Women Forum. And through this, we are trying to attract as many as stakeholders to these important events. The government of Tajikistan also organized the Glacier Festival, international exhibition transforming glaciers problems into solution to raise awareness about the glaciers retreatment, highlighted the value of water resources, promote their preservation, and showcase scientific research and global cooperation. Dear colleagues, important outcome of the conference includes the adoption of the Dushanbe Declaration and Dushanbe Approval, call the actions which call upon UN member states and stakeholders to take necessary measures to enhance international cooperation in promotion and coordination of the global agenda for the preservation of the hydrosphere and glaciers. It includes a complement and initiative partnership and commitments, including privileges for the new financial commitments to the US Trust Fund. There is also a chart summary of the process of the conference. The results of the conference lay by foundation to advance the glaciers preservation agenda. boost, one of them, of course, boost implementation of the International Year of Glaciers, preservation and decade of action for Cryosphere Scientific 25-34, launch the Global Glaciers Agenda to sustain momentum and further evaluate the importance of the glaciers as well as the border Cryospheres International Agenda, establish a Dushanbe Glaciers process as a mechanism for implementation and follow-up using Dushanbe as a platform for regulation high-level international conference on glaciers preservation, continue to mobilize resources from the glaciers preservation, including contribution to the trust fund. Strength in linkages with the global sustainable development, environment, ocean, water, and climate agendas. Next steps, the immediate next steps is this mission of our outcome document. We must capitalize on the momentum of the conference to support the implementation of International Year of Glaciers preservation. We are at the halfway point, so we need to maximize efforts to achieve the objective of the year. We really hope that outcome of the conference will sustainability contribute to following high-level global processing. UN Ocean Conference, high-level side event, June needs in France. United Nations High-Level Political Forum of Sustainable Development, July in New York. UNG High-Level Week, September, New York, and of course COP30, November in Brazil. Preparatory process for the 2026 UN conference and 2028 UN conference, which held in Dushanbe. It was small information about what we are doing in this year, especially in the conference, and of course we all understand that is not enough. But we understanding also that glaciers one is an important part of the fresh water. Unfortunately, during the conference, we from the International Hydrometeorological Agency, we said that it's not a big problem. After 300 years, the glaciers will become again. And for scientific guys, 300 years is not a big problem, but for us, it's our life, yeah, and life of our children. And it's a little bit shock at us that we need 300 years to return back the situation for the glaciers. But during these 300 years, there's big challenges to live, to not just only for Tajikistan, but for the whole worldwide. That's why we are using all opportunities, and thank you very much for inviting us to these very important issues. As deeper we are going to the water issues, we understand as complex is it. And that's why good luck all of us to this very important event, and have a good World Water Week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Shamizoda, for breaking ice by your excellent opening speech. But in this case, you are breaking glaciers. Now, I'd like to invite speakers of the panel discussion. So please come to the front. Ms. Marin Lundberg, Mr. Shin Nemoto, Mr. Faisal Kamal, and Ms. Jae-Hyun So, she is participating through the video, and Ms. Maggie Mark. Welcome. Relax. Now we are going to start a discussion to trying to connect glaciers and the other parts of the world. But first of all, I'd like to have a short presentation to set the scene. So the first slides, please. Already there. So from glaciers to sea, first of all, this year, sadly, we had another funeral of a glacier. This is a funeral of the Yala Glacier in Nepal on May 12th. As you can see here, this is a glacier of Yala in 1982, and it started to melt. This is a picture of 96 2008, 2009, 2022, and then water here. So the glaciers are melting rapidly. This is the glacier of the world, and then it is a total mass. And from the 1980 until 2015, the glacier became thinner by 20 meters in total. But the problem is that the speed of the melting in the recent 10 years is 3 times faster than the past 3 decades back. So, as the minister said, we have to be alerted. We cannot wait for another 300 years. Then what is happening actually in the field? From the glacier lakes, that is causing glacier lake outbreak plus and affecting and devastating the countries and communities in the upper stream. And to the sea, as you can see, this is a shrinking arrow sea, and then melting glacier, and the depletion of the glacier will exacerbate the situation. And also, we have to look at the delta areas, because melting glaciers are giving double impact of the hydrological and sea level changes. Here, this is a contribution to sea level rise. You may think that melting Antarctic to Arctic is the main cause of the sea level rise. Actually, expansion of the surface water is like 1/3, but glacier melt is currently 40% of the water sea level rise. That is causing a double impact of the sea level rise and and exacerbating hydrological situation in the rivers. This is a predicted surge and introduction in the Bangladesh Delta. As you can see here, this is the area where water is going to be intruding into the inland area. And that is also causing a problem for the agriculture, because the sea level rise is causing, together with the depletion of the water from the rivers, are causing the intrusion of the spikes of the seawater into the groundwater. And that is affecting the agricultural situation very badly, as you can see here. You have the enlargement of the area where agricultural growth is very much limited, from twice a year to once a year. And this is also affecting a city. This is a picture of the 3 cities in Japan. Already in those 3 cities, 500 square kilometers is under seawater level, and 1 million people are living underwater. And after the sea level rise, that will be the area will be increasing by 50%, and the population will also increasing under seawater level up to the 4.4 million people. So what can we do? There are things we can do by science, by practice, and by politics. This is one example which will be explained by Mr. Pfizer later. The ICMO, the International Center for Mountain Development, is starting a new project to connect from glacier to sea by having a holistic research and survey from the glacier areas to the Bay of Bengal. They do the upstream research, midstream, downstream, and basin scale integration of those researches. And practically, there should be some amelioration to the situation. This is one example of the early warning from glacier to sea developed by the ICHAM in Japan. They are using satellite data, which will be analyzing the rainfall from satellite data into the flood warning. That is transmitted by SMS. So this is free of charge. You can develop this system in your river basin if you are familiar with the computer. simulation in a matter of 1 week. And also, this will be explained by Mr. Nemoto later. But now, ultra-accurate discharge prediction will enable the better operation of the dams so that more water, including flash flood, can be stored in the reservoir. So this is an example to mitigate the situation by practice. And finally, we need politics. This organization, High-Level Expert and Leaders Panel on Water and Disaster, which is HELP, is trying to connect the process of the disaster risk reduction and the water process and climate change so that we can have a strong link between disaster risk reduction, water management, and climate change adaptation and mitigation. To do so, HELP is organizing the United Nations Special Thematic Session on Water and Disasters every 2 years. And this year's theme in July is a special session from glaciers to ocean by inviting head of the states, ministers, and also civil society and the youth. And from out of that, there's a new idea coming up conceptually, that is a water region. Water region is an area of the single or multiple river systems, including bays and water bodies in which these rivers flow, that can function as an economic, social, and cultural or political unit. So this is an idea to go beyond water, so that water people can give an impact to the politics, economy, and society and culture. Having said that, let us discuss from glaciers to sea. Now we are learning from each of the speakers about what they think about from glaciers to the sea. Now let me start from Ms. Malin Lundberg. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just access my notes. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So now I will bring you quite far away from the glaciers because the tool that I will present now is tested in different parts of Africa, and I will show you some photos because I'm just back from Madagascar. But with that said, this is a new tool, and these are pilots that we have done, and we are very interested in scaling up and trying this tool in other regions also. Okay, so this is about the forest-water nexus, the links between forest and trees and water. And what I have learned, I have a PhD in restoring rainforest, and what I've learned through my work with SEWI is that there is so much funding going into restoration, there is so much resources going into restoration, but water is rarely taken into consideration fully in those initiatives. And that is why we have developed this tool. And trees and forests, they can impact the environment and linking to water on both local and regional scale. It can improve soil moisture and soil quality. It can act to reduce erosion, to mitigate floods, and to limit landslides. And then on a regional scale, the trees or forests, they're actually pumping water inland. So they are part of the atmospheric moisture flows. So over big land masses, why it's raining inland has a lot to do with the forest cover in related areas. And many ecosystem services, they are dependent on water, of course. And they are also crucial components of a resilient landscape. And therefore, there are also strategies for disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation that really needs to take this forest-water nexus into consideration. So that's why we have developed this water smart forest and landscape restoration tool, WFLR. And this is to support forest and landscape restoration initiatives in better integrating water resources and hydrological processes. And this tool we see as a complement to other tools. One example is from our pilot in Benin, in West Africa, where we have worked together to train the national stakeholders while they were meeting in a Rome training. Rome is a tool developed by IUCN, Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology. And there was a training on this tool in Benin. And then we were invited to also give a training on Water Smart FLR to the same stakeholders. And what we do is that there are two phases in this methodology. The first phase is a preparatory phase, where we look at the ecosystem services at risk. We look at we describe the boundary of the area that we are working with and the ecosystem services there. We also look at international strategies and national strategies that could be of interest. We have the NDCs, we have the NAPs, and so on, to see how we can hook up to what's already planned within the country. And then we also do a stakeholder mapping to ensure that all stakeholders that should be there are there. Because we cannot do a successful restoration operation if we are not ensuring that all important stakeholders are part of that process. And we work on two levels. So we work both on the national level and then on the local level. We have the project on the local level. We do trainings on the local level to learn about the problems there and how to solve them. And then we do trainings on the national level to get input from the national level and their knowledge on international and national processes, how that can support and feed into the local process that we're working on. And this tool is developed in consultation with a reference group. So we have key partners from, for example, FAO, IUCN, and World Resource Institute that was involved in the first stage of developing the methodology. And then in collaboration with GIZ, an initiative called Forest for Future, we have been able to test this tool in 4 countries in Africa. So that is Benin, as I mentioned, it's Ethiopia, it's Madagascar, and it's Togo. And as I mentioned, I am just back from a trip to Madagascar. So this is the northwestern region of Boeni in Madagascar. This was a dry forest cover a long while ago, and it's very degraded now. There, if you see here in the background, this is like the source of a watershed, and it's very degraded. It's a lot of erosion and or more or less no trees left in the area. And then downstream, there are rice paddies, so we can potentially see a few in the background there. But then on our side of the photo, so to say, there is more rice paddies and villages. And what happens during the monsoon or during the rainy season is that there will come a lot of rain at the same time, and there is a lot of floods, a lot of siltation, and all the water is flushed away. So there is not really a lot of water that actually stays in the area for a long while and can feed into the rice paddies. And therefore, they have already done some management. They have created waterways, as you see here. They have also created waterways by planting grasses, high grasses, along the streams to protect the waterways. So that has done a great effect on the area, which means that if you compare to other villages and their rice paddies, they are much drier than this village rice paddies were when I was there. But what they want to help with now is to work on the upper hill to identify priorities for how to restore those areas. And then what we do then is to first go out in the field together with the local stakeholders, and then we invite them to a 2-day workshop. And in that workshop, first, we go through the findings of the preparatory phase of the tool, so that we agree that the findings are findings that they also agree on. And then as the next step, they sit in groups and they discuss what should they do now with this area. And together they identify priority actions within 3 areas. It's policy mainstreaming, it's capacity development, and it's implementation. And the more of the policy mainstreaming and capacity development that is already covered, usually it's not, but if it's covered, then it's more ready to go into the implementation. And it's really, really key to engage the stakeholders, as I mentioned. And that's also a challenge, because the buy-in here is that the priority actions that are identified in the workshop, then it's up to the local government, the local stakeholders, to actually get that implemented. And that is a long-term process. And also, so we need to give it time through both in the workshop and after the workshop, for this to be to really have a way forward after the identified priority actions. And the next steps now, what we're doing is that we are also going to provide guidance on mobilizing funding, like seed funding. We look at climate finance, we look at market-based mechanisms like payments for ecosystem services, and other types of innovative finance. So we are going to put together a guidance material on that. That's our next step. And as I mentioned, we are really ready to scale up. So we are very, very interested in also trying this tool in Asia. So please reach out if you see any opportunities for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marin-san. Forest is a very important component in thinking the connection between the glaciers and the sea, because the water basins is mostly covered by forests. In my country, Japan, 70% is forests. And the case is the same in Africa, Americas, and other parts. And the important thing here, what we listened from Marin-san, is that how to practically conserve and restore the forest and lands altogether by the power of the community. Because this is needed when we think about the connection between glaciers and the sea. How to restore by the power of the nature and by the power of the people. Thank you very much. But also now I'd like to ask the presentation from Mr. Shin Nemoto, the Director of International Unit of the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport. So he is now focusing on the other side of the protection, which is infrastructure. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hiroki. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shin Nemoto. I'm Director of International Office, River Planning Division, MLIT. MLIT is a Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. And MLIT has Water and Disaster Management Bureau. Yes. In this presentation, I'd like to introduce initiative as an example of adaptation measures. In Japan, many cities are located near river mouths. Most of Japan is covered by mountain. The mountain area is the brown color. However, people and assets are concentrated in narrow flat plains. For example, the capital, Tokyo, is here. and the second biggest city, Osaka, is here. Including Tokyo, Osaka, the two of Japanese largest cities in Japan, located in flood-prone area. For example, this picture is Eastern Tokyo area. In Eastern Tokyo, in eastern part of Tokyo, the city spread out of elevation 0 meter. As you can see, the people are living under the height of water level. So, actually very dangerous situation. And in recent years, natural disasters occurs across Japan as frequently as almost every year. In addition, the heavy rainfalls have increased in Japan. As shown in the graph, the frequency of short duration heavy rain over 50 millimeter per hour has increased by about 1.4 times in 30 years. The frequency is more and more increasing. So flood risks will increase due to the effect of climate change. So in recent years, our ministry, MLIT, has been updating flood control plans to climate change into account. Currently, the target of flood control plan for each river basin based on the historical records of rainfall and tidal levels. However, now our ministry starts reviewing plans to consider the climate change impact, such as increased rainfall and sea level rise. For example, in the 2-degree rise scenario, estimated rainfall amount increases by 1.1 times. And discharge increases by 1.2 times. Also, frequency of flood increases by 2 times. And we are also reviewing our high tide design to take into account future sea level rise. The areas affected by storm surge will be longer in the future than they are now. This is an example of Arakawa River in Tokyo. The current high tide zone is from river mouth to 10.9 kilometers from the river mouth. This is the current high tide zone. But near the future, a high tide zone will be 15.5 kilometers from the river mouth. So we are planning to construct a high tide embankment. But the river infrastructure development takes many times. So it is important to consider future climate change and invest before serious disaster occur. Also, in addition to flood control measures implemented by river management sectors, all stakeholders will collaborate to promote comprehensive and multi-layered water disaster countermeasure across the entire river basin. For example, in this river basin, there are some dams. For example, hydraulic dams release water before heavy rain comes to help flood control. And also, farmers retain rainwater in their rice fields to help flood control. Climate change will have a wide range of impact. The amount of heavy rain will increase, and heavy rainfall will become more frequent. Also, sea levels will rise. In addition to flood control issue, also drought are also likely to increase. So many stakeholders in each river basin, for example, river construction office, power company having dams, agricultural association, etc., need to collaborate with each other to address climate change issues. That is all for me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nemoto, for sharing the case of Japan with a focus on the cities. City is an important part to connect from the source to the sea. And also how your country is adapting to the climate change situation by, including everybody in who is affected. So, this is the other side of the problem and also a part of the solution. Now I'd like to ask Mr. Faisal Kamal from ECMOT about the exact theme from the glacier to the sea. You have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Hiroki. Yeah, I represent International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. It's an institute, works in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, which is owned by 8 regional member countries, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, and Pakistan. So I'm taking out the wider lens. My colleagues has been very specific to particular geography. So when we talk about Hindu Kush Himalayan region, there are about 250 million population inhabits in this region. And we have one colleague sitting here from Hunza, very specifically from Hunza mountain region. But when we talk about this HKH region, it's not about 250 million population, but it originates 10 major rivers in Asia, which affects about 2 billion population. So yeah, then it's a tremendous challenge, and then it connects to many seas, the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, and then Eastern Sea. So we work primarily in the mountain region, but then we collaborate with other issues like institutions like Ocean Policy Research Institute in Japan and many other institutions. So I'll be mainly talking about the upstream part of the basins. So when we're talking about this HKH region, it inhabits about more than 50,000 glaciers. And then we know that in higher altitude, the climate change impact is double, and sometime in Arctic areas it's 4 times the normal. And when we're talking about this higher temperature, there are glacial melts and changing precipitation patterns and disaster originating from them. So many a time, these regions only focus for the purpose of glaciers, but an important element in this cryosphere region is snow. When we're talking about the climate change, snow is also impacting. It is the snow persistence is uncertain. And then there are a change in seasons. It is going more towards the early seasons, and then there are early melts and then reduce river flows. And another important element which is invisible is frozen soil. We call it permafrost. With all those impacts, that soil is also being impacted, and many of our infrastructures are built on those frozen soils, which were never looked earlier. And then our assets and investments are at risk. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Apologies for that. Yeah. I talk about the risk attached to these melting. One is you might have been coming across these news around glacial lake outburst floods, and this has become more common and putting a huge number of people and assets at risk. The most recent one was originated from China, which actually impacted most of the assets in Nepal, and similarly, Sikkim has already impacted. Sikkim GLOF has already demolished about 1,200 megawatt infrastructure, and unfortunate losses of several thousand people losses, and so on. So this is the kind of risk to assets and human life. When we're talking about long-term impacts and losses, that is related to water flows. When we talk about these river basins, it varies geography to geography. When we talk about this Indus, Brahmaputra, and Ganges basin, Indus is the most dependent on glacier and snow melt. And then similarly, Brahmaputra has more contribution from snow, but less from the glaciers, while the Ganges basin has more contribution coming from precipitation. It has limited contribution from cryosphere components. Then again, when we are investigating those quantities and qualities, we need to design our interventions according to those. Sorry. Yeah, I've been talking about the impacts. With these changes in flow patterns, there will be about 129 million farmers directly impacted, and then we expect that by 2050 there'll be loss of crop yields in maize, potato, sugarcane, and lentil, and so on. And similarly, there are huge risks to upstream hydropower infrastructures. So I mentioned about the risks and the quantities which we are dealing with. The EC mode is a place where we collaborate with science institutions to produce knowledge, which I mentioned in my earlier slides. And then also we work with regional member countries, riparian countries, to bring solutions. For that matter, we have established basin networks. In Indus Basin, we have a basin network from riparian countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and China, established since 2014. And similarly, last year, we established Brahmaputra Basin Network, where experts from Bangladesh, India, China, and Bhutan sit together to do the scientific assessment and also produce some management plans, if possible. On the other side, I mentioned about these riparian countries, regional cooperation. On the science side, we are not just assessing the quantities of climate change, but we are also trying to produce guidelines. Like, for example, in case of Nepal, we produce guidelines for climate resilient infrastructure, which is being adopted by Water and Energy Commission in Nepal, to adopt those best practices so that future risks can be avoided. Yeah, I mentioned about regional cooperation, science cooperation. This is a particular visual from Pakistan 3 days back, where governments are investing a lot on early warning system, which are scientifically very elaborated. But this particular story suggests that one herder, shepherd, actually warned the communities, which avoided about losses of 300 community members. So assets were not saved. Lots of damages happened to the poor rural communities, but with the alertness of the vigilance of one individual it saved tremendous lives. That brings us to a point that along with science and collaboration at national level, local level knowledge, indigenous systems needs to be integrated for solutions. We started working on those lines in relatively less challenging areas that we have not placed these solutions, community-based early warning system in the high altitude areas, but we place those community-based early warning system in the midstreams where communities are involved in the early warning systems and then informing even in many cases transboundary flood alerts. So yeah, moving forward, we need to produce more robust systems which can operate in difficult terrain like 3,000 meter and above, or in a high-risk situation areas. For that matter, we need to make investments over a period of time. EC mode established in 1980s. It evolved over a period of time that we are taking another evolution that we are going beyond knowledge production to solution design. This Sustainable Action for Ecosystem Restoration project is one such example where we are collaborating with UNICEF, UN Women, and then developing adaptation solutions both in upstream and downstream areas. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your works on the glaciers, which is very interesting. And also you have a comprehensive idea of connecting people from glacier to the ocean. That is already visualized in your presentation. People may have a lot of questions about your presentation. Now I'm inviting Ms. Jihyun So. Are you there? I'm hoping.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Can you see me?
Not yet.
Okay, never mind. Should I start then in the interest of time?
I can see you now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this important session. GWP greatly welcomes the attention to a topic that's often overlooked when we discuss water-related disasters. Let me mention a few more of the shocking facts cited in the recently released WMO State of the Global Climate 2024 report. As Professor Hiroki mentioned, the largest glacier mass loss on record occurred in the last 3 years, affecting every single one of the 19 glacier regions worldwide. Since 1975, glaciers have lost more than 9,000 gigatons of ice. That's equivalent to a block the size of Germany, 25 meters thick. And according to the World Glacier Monitoring Service, since 2020, the annual global glacier loss has equaled 30 years of global water consumption. These implications are severe, not only for coastal flooding that threatens hundreds of thousands of people, but also for disasters far inland. Glaciers increase disaster risk in multiple ways, and the key concept here is, of course, peak water, as other panelists have also mentioned. This is the point when runoff from melting glaciers reaches its maximum. After that, runoff declines as glaciers shrink and can no longer provide the same amount of water. This means, first, we face an increase in flooding risk, followed by water scarcity and drought once the glaciers have diminished. In short, both extremes, too much water and too little water, are shaped by melting glaciers. We've already heard about the GLOFs, the glacier lake outburst floods. It's important to remember that in many regions, such as Central Asia, The current increase in glacier runoff is actually masking the decrease in rainfall and overall water availability. Once peak water is reached in glacier-fed mountain ranges like the Tian Shan, the Pamirs, the Hindu Kush, river flows will decline drastically. At GWP, we're very concerned about these trends as they are adding to today's escalating global water crisis. This is why we are launching the Global Transformation Agenda for Water to accelerate and scale up climate-resilient water investments. The ambition is to leverage at least $15 billion by 2030 and to mobilize $500 million for GWP partners in collaboration with G20 member countries, the multilateral development banks, climate funds, and other partners. To support this, the Global Outlook Council for Water Investment was recently launched by President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa as a G20 presidential legacy initiative. It is co-chaired, in addition to South Africa, by the UAE, Barbados, and the Gates Foundation. Many of the champions involved are also well known to the water community, such as Her Excellency Retno Marsudi, the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Water, Celeste Saulo, WMO Secretary General, Henk Ovink, Global Commission on the Economics of Water, Jeffrey Sachs, SDSN, and Alex Money of Oxford University. We believe this is a landmark step towards scaling water investments to the level the crisis requires. But you may ask, what does this mean on the ground? What does GWP actually do on this topic? One example is Nepal. Mountain regions in Nepal are home to extensive glaciers, which are experiencing widespread retreat due to average temperature rise. Glacial discharge, in turn, impacts the hydrological regimes of the rivers downstream and causes rapid growth of glacial lakes. These GLOFs are one of the main climate change phenomenon with the potential to pose extreme risk to populations and infrastructure. GWP, through our Nepalese partner, Jalshrut Vikas Santas, JVS, played a strategic role in integrating water-focused adaptation into the NAP. As the speaker from ICIMOD mentioned, it's very important to integrate local knowledge with local people. And Nepal's innovation in climate adaptation is the Local Adaptation Plan of Action. GWP Nepal assessed nearly 100 LAPAs to identify how water issues were being addressed at the community level. Second, GWP prepared sectoral reports on water resources and agriculture as formal inputs to Nepal's NAP process. Third, GWP provided policy support, helping to draft key water-related policies and bills, including the Integrated Irrigation Bill and the National Water Resources Policy. And fourth, but most importantly, capacity building. Through workshops and training, GWP Nepal supported government officials and shareholders in understanding and implementing NAP frameworks. Another example of GWP's work is in Georgia, where a large share of water resources comes from glaciers. The Country Water Partnership Georgia has applied the source to sea approach in the 4th National Environmental Action Program, which is now shaping Georgia's national water and environmental policies. In Central Asia, we're developing a new project with a focus on drought, which includes innovative approaches such as crowdsourcing snowed cover data to better understand future water availability and manage it accordingly. This work is still in development, but we look forward to sharing more details soon. We're able to do this work through our partnership with WMO on 2 global programs that assess the world's most impactful water-related disasters: the Integrated Drought Management Program, IDMP, and the Associated Program on Flood Management, APFM. Both support stakeholders worldwide in managing drought and flood risks in an integrated, sustainable way. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to join this important discussion. As I noted at the beginning, glaciers are too often overlooked when we usually speak about water-related disasters. Yet from mountains to seas, their melting is reshaping risks across the entire water cycle. This is why we support and champion the concept of water region, which was described by Professor Hiroki at the beginning of this session, because this gives us an integrated perspective: environmental, scientific, technical, and political. If we want to protect communities from glacier to sea, we need to invest now in an integrated water resilient water solutions. This is the task ahead for all of us, and one we can only achieve together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason, for focusing on the solutions, particularly GW's efforts on the major challenges on water, including from glacier to sea. You have talked about important element of challenge solutions, that is money, governance, and capacity building. I really appreciate the effort of the GWP now and in the future. Now, I'd like to ask Ms. Maggie Mark. She's a member of the World Youth Parliament, and then the final missing element to deal with from glacier to sea, the youth.
Yes, thank you so much, Kento. I'm Maggie Marco from Albania. I'm here representing the World Youth Parliament for Water, and it's a great pleasure that the organizers here continue engaging young people in such discussions, which I believe are of high importance, especially when it comes to current issues that we both, or I could say all generations, are going through, and the newer generations will also go through. I wanted to ask, first of all, here are many young people, and it's exciting to see that, and hopefully there will be more places with young people of this amount. And how many of you have experienced water-related disasters at least once in your life? You can just bring your hand up. I love that there are also former young people who are also bringing their hands up. As you can see, especially with the times that we are living right now, through extreme climate change, nobody could escape the water disasters, which can come from many ways that we can possibly think about. And especially when it comes to glaciers melting, I believe not many know how many of these disasters are induced by glacier melts. Most of us have not seen one melting, maybe some have, but what's up there is actually reshaping the way our future is, the way our rivers, our cities, our farms and communities are going to be changing throughout this very drastic period for the whole humanity, as if we do not act now. And if we talk about the glacier preservation sector, human resources usually place most of their focus on the experts, which is understandable, especially with the limited resources that are currently when it comes to this other side or aspect of ecosystem preservation. And with that, I also want to put into perspectives who is living in the areas that actually are impacted directly by the melt of glaciers. And as you might already have answered in your head, is already rural communities and indigenous communities, people who are the first ones who will get impacted. And they are also the people who have no power or authority to do something about this. And this is why we need to rethink the way that we are working with stakeholders that are currently being impacted the most. At the same time, in these areas, the population that's living the most is youth. So it's already the young people who are currently residing there and who already have the capabilities to take action and protect what's already happening. And this is why I want to kind of put through the importance of investing in young people, in making glacier protection a permanent process, not more a temporary thing, especially when nowadays we are seeing the increase and repetition of these disasters happening more often, year by year, and maybe season by season. And with this, young people have a very special role. Let's talk about the education part. If we want to educate young people, if we want to educate our communities, we need to start with young people. They are the ones who are closer to other young people, to the newer generation, the ones who can translate information to something that's more consumable, to something that's more understandable, and to something that they can take action right away. And this is when it comes to capacity building that we see institutions already trying to implement this with particular communities, though we need to focus a lot more on young people, and especially turning these young people into the ones who are going to give this education to the fellows and to the children. I think we have to prioritize the way that we are raising this new generation. We want a generation that's more resilient than the current ones. We want ones that can actually withstand and find solutions that are better than today. And this is why I want to push through a lot with the idea of making young people as also actors in education. And what's also one thing that young people really excel is communication. And this is why I think all of us, through social media, through other mediums, we are able to communicate what we think and what we want to make other people also understand from us in a way that it can transcend between generations. So why not utilize these communities of young people to be the ones who can connect with the others and inform them about potential disasters that could be happening. This is why I would like to push for more local focus. These communities needs to be the ones who are there, funded, and with a mechanism that can be supported throughout the whole period of the communities that are living there. So they can be the ones who actually stop these disasters from happening. When glaciers melt, we see that the rivers flow stronger. And when they are out of the water, these rivers dry up. There are many ways how glaciers are currently impacting our farmers, our economies, cities. And yeah, it goes throughout all these linkages. And at the same time, indigenous communities that are living there will be forced to move away from these places. And with this moves away the knowledge that they have already built through centuries and years of living there. This knowledge that is already so important when it comes to getting ready for upcoming disasters. And I want to take it into a note that we don't need to move these communities away from these areas. Instead, we need to work on what's already the key problem and having young people part of this problem as partners into solving it. And in this way, we'll be able to build a more resilient generation and a more resilient future for all of us, because whatever happens today is going to be me and you who are going to feel the results of it. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm going to pass it to you, Kenzo.
Thank you very much. I agree that youth has an important role to play in addressing the challenges from glaciers to sea. You have mentioned the power of youth, power in influencing, power in communicating, and power in education. So we have to collaborate with a community of the youth to deal with our challenges. So having heard from all the speakers, I'd like to ask one more question to the speakers. Would you please show it to the one? So the question to you is, what will be the most important action the international community should take to address challenges related to the theme from glacier to ocean? What is the most important challenge and how you propose the solutions? And also, if you have any messages to the UN 2026 conference related to that, please also mention that. Let me start from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's see here. Most important action. I think that it has been a lot of focus on working together, and that is of course extremely important. But I think also what we are standing in front of now is to figure out how to work to link together the different levels of society. We have the local level that is crucial, but to actually create impact in the bigger sense, we need to link that local to regional, national, international, and to work really strongly on finding ways to do that, I think is a key action moving forward.
Thank you very much. The key word is collaboration.
Yes.
Collaboration at all levels, national, regional, and community levels, which is important work for the forest and land restoration, but for everybody, for every action.
But always tricky, so it's...
Yes. So, Nemoto-san, what is the most important action?
So I'd like to express my opinion from the point of view adaptation measures. If glaciers melt in large quantities due to climate change, sea level will rise accordingly. As I mentioned, many large cities are located in low-lying area around river mouths, not only in Japan, but also in Asia in particular. Sea level rise due to climate change increase the risk of storm surge and flooding in these large cities. So it is necessary to develop flood control plans that take into account future sea level rise. It is important to raise embankment and improve facilities, not only to address the rainfall, but also the account for sea level rise. However, it takes a long time to construct embankment and floodgate, etc. So therefore, regarding adaptive measure, it is important to plan and invest in disaster prevention measures concerning climate change for the future.
Thank you very much. So what you think is important is the resilient policy, which can be adaptive to the both long-term and short-term situation. Thank you very much. Waizawa-san.
Thank you, Professor. So I mentioned earlier that at this point of time, we have a very decent knowledge of climate change, trends, and its potential impacts. And then we have also examples of pilots which worked. What needs to be done is, and then those pilots work in particular geographies with varying level of success. What is needed that we bring investment to scale those pilots. To be more specific, scale-proven science-based pilots, scaling and investments. And we are talking about investment. Big banks often goes for big infrastructures. So Indo-Ganges Basin has seen this evolution of infrastructure from British colonial area to 60s and 70s. But we are seeing that those infrastructure alone solutions are not working. Now the investment needs to be balanced between nature-based solution and the infrastructure investments. So, yeah, then moving forward, Professor Hiroki mentioned about the UN Water Conference 2026. So, on the same lines, we are producing participatory river basin assessments in that conference. We expect that member countries engage with us of taking this evidence into action cycle. So while we are talking about these investments from the global communities, I think that most of the solution in this new world order or this disorder, we should not expect much from the global entities. We need to work together. These member countries in the region needs to come together to find solution and take actions based on the science and evidence.
Thank you very much. So your keyword is a partnership and also evidence-based actions. So partnership among scientists, partnership of the communities, between politicians, between diplomats, and between practitioners. and then you want to carry it to the 2026 conference. Thank you very much. Jay-san, you have some answer to the question?
I have my proposal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I think political leadership at the highest level is what is needed for this action. As I mentioned, this issue is still not that well known among the people that are really going to be the biggest, have the biggest impact from it. And I think that bringing this issue urgently to the heads of state level is critical. At this recently launched African Union African Investment Water Summit in August, there were 6 heads of state and over almost 40 ministers of water, environment, and climate. Because in these countries, it was Africa, but also outside Africa, these countries, the highest level political leaders understand how critical water is for the country's development and growth. And GWP would like to help as much as possible to also raise the issue of glaciers to the highest level of political leadership.
Thank you very much. The political leadership at top level is the most important of all. I totally agree with you. And also my congratulations to the success of the African Investment Summit organized by the GWP. This is the first attempt, which was very successful, to bring in private water in a huge amount to the African water challenges. Megi-san.
Along with the political will, I would say investing in youth and communities that are most at risk and creating these adaptable measures and mechanisms that we can engage the local communities who are the first ones to experience the disasters induced by glacier melting. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And hopefully an action that could be taken would be thinking of having young people and indigenous people and women to be part of these decisions that are made regarding these glaciers issues in efforts to make sure that we are living in a safer environment than today.
Thank you very much. So you say that they say, Jason says that the top leadership at the global level is important, but also you say that youth leadership is important at community level.
Definitely.
And also gender issues, the women leadership is very important. I totally agree with you. And, I hope that, the youth, your group will be more and more engaged with the local community to vitalize their actions together with yours. Now, we still have 10 minutes, luckily. So if you have any questions, yes, and yes. First you, then next. The mic is there.
Thank you so much. Like my colleague said that I'm coming from Hindu-Kush Himalayan region of Pakistan, Hunza. And my question is related to glaciers, and I'm not sure whoever would like to answer. I wouldn't direct it to. So I have a couple of points and questions. I would say I would like to be as brief as I can. The person who is online, sorry if I'm, what's her name? I'm not sure how to pronounce. Jason? Jason. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Apologies. You mentioned about glaciers or GLOF. It's still in discussion, and we need to leverage this topic to political high-level leadership in order to make some tangible decisions or interventions. Since coming from the region, and I really don't think we would have time till if there would be any decision or multilateral agreement on saving or protecting glaciers. So the things are really urgent. So how would you see, instead of top-bottom approach, how would you see it maybe bottom-up approaches integrating local knowledges into the glacier or GLOF policies, whatever they are going to be? And secondly, when the glaciers melts, and you also mentioned about the decrease in rainfall is actually masked by GLOF, and there are numerous issues, I assume, which could be masked by GLOF or lack of research or studies because of the fragile geographies or lack of resources, or people do not have resources. So usually climate change becomes a humanitarian issue, which actually also obscure what is the root cause of rapid melting of glaciers. So how would you see that? And thirdly, the communities which are from Pakistan, I could speak about Pakistan because I come from there and I have done my research. We have colonial histories, and how would you see the GLOF in relation to climate reparations, if there would be any way to connect? So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
First, Jason.
Professor Hiroki, I will need your help to answer some of the questions, but let me just address the first one. One of the reasons that I put so much emphasis on high-level political leadership is that, for all intents and purposes, our world is guided by that. And so I think taking the leadership of countries like Japan, like the Republic of Tajikistan that spoke, where this issue is being addressed at the highest political levels, is very important, and to learn how those countries do it. But as for the bottom-up or the technical and community linkages, you have heard 4 excellent presentations here by the panelists, where the knowledge is being accumulated, and what's more, on this topic are willing and open to share their knowledge. And what they need is an enabling global partnership network to be able to do that. I think ICIMOD does excellent work in those member countries that they're representing. And we need to have more knowledge sharing sessions like the one today. Finally, I would just like to really support Professor Hiroki's leadership in really continuing the baton or the flag on this glacier issue. And I look forward to continuing to support him for the upcoming UN Water Conference, where the global political leadership will be aware and hopefully also with us.
Thank you, Jason. Father-san.
Yeah, I think the second part of the question, this colonial history and then loss and damage reparation. So when you look at the quantum of the losses, I think there's an estimate that there is $400 billion losses in the HKH region alone. There's no way that the world is coming to compensate us around that. I think we still need to work on resilience building, adaptation, then waiting for loss compensations. So we can still try to convince global community around that, but we must focus on, while looking at the reality, we must focus on avoiding those losses even today. Thank you.
Okay. As for the leadership by the head of the states, it may take time, to obtain a consensus. But the head of the state has a power. Even one individual president or prime minister can do many things. So there are things that the head of the states can do collectively, but also individually. So it depends on the situation, but always, if one president or even one prime minister takes a decision, then it will give an impact to many areas outside their border.
All right, I'm going to do something provocative on purpose. The first is to shamelessly promote the panel that we're doing on Wednesday It's about Tibet and glaciers and hydropower. And the reason that is relevant here is because we've had two panelists talk about the importance of youth and local and indigenous communities and marginalized communities. And I would say talk about some of the big picture and science of what's happening in the Himalayas and overlooking, I'm just challenging that Tibet is an occupied country and the Tibetan people have no say and they're marginalized people, so they can't possibly be at the table. And I think that the situation in Tibet is indicative of things that can happen in other parts of the world, where we separate those two conversations into two tracks, and everyone agrees that marginalized people should be involved, and everybody agrees that we need evidence-based science, but they get separated. So I'd like to hear from both of you or anybody on how do we reconcile those two issues, and then shamelessly again promote the panel we're doing, which is going to try to do that. So that was my provocative and hopefully not too annoying question.
Okay. Who wants to answer this question?
So I think when it comes to these cases, which you also mentioned, could happen in other places as well, and with the way that the world is currently changing and is becoming quite unpredictable as well, we need to put more efforts in dialogue, especially when it comes to protecting the lives of the people that could be impacted right away. And I think it's quite hard to do that, especially when there could be a resentment and there could be distance of getting these two parties together or more. This is why it needs to start probably in smaller settings with smaller dialogues that could probably act as a bridge to one that can make it actually something that can convene in a respectful and in a productive manner as well. What I see that's lacking is usually this thoughtfulness when it comes to getting closer to the communities. And you don't start on a large manner. You need to go and do this in small sections, small groups. You need to be very thoughtful and attentive to what these communities are experiencing, and then analyze and find a solution that could bring these together. And it's all in the end for a common good, and as long as there is this desire and feeling, I'm sure in the end we are all humans, and we of course want to work together to make sure that we can live a more safer life and not be an anxious or scared of what tomorrow could bring, especially with the way how the climate is changing. I hope this is good.
Very good. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Marta. I come from Poland. I represent the University of Gdańsk. And I'd like to thank you for your insightful presentations. You've covered a lot of topics. You've given a lot of attention to different adaptation measures that are so important. But my question concerns mitigation. What role does mitigation play in preserving glaciers? What I'm talking about when I think about mitigation, I'm talking about the burning of fossil fuels, changing our diets to more plant-based ones, and so on. So what is the role of mitigation in the process? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, actually that's the first choice. Mitigation is the first choice, but again, you will see me as a pessimist. As the global politics is evolving, global leadership is, we are looking at it, there are less hopes around it. So even like we are talking about these IPCC projections, and then we even ourselves, we are doing those adaptation plans according to those projections. But we wonder that what is happening now, the global policies, national priorities, the way it is being set, that what comes in 10 years of assessment and that where does those centigrade figures will go. So this fundamental thing, first choice, if sanity prevails, wisdom prevails, we should work around that. But we need to be prepared on adaptation and then facing those challenges.
Thank you very much. And if no other questions, then it's time to wrap up. So first of all, thank you very much for everybody. And I had a lot of good, keywords as to deal with the situation from the glacier to the ocean. Of course, the challenges are very much complex, and you cannot solve the issue just one day or 1 week or 1 year even. But you mentioned partnership, community-based solutions, nature-based solution, collaboration, the power use of convincing, educating, and communicating. And also science should play a major role in addressing the issue from the glacier to ocean. And thank you very much. A lot of good questions. And then you have mentioned many of the aspects which this question of from glaciers to ocean include. But the most important thing is the actions. Actions every day by everybody. So how can we ensure that? By top leaders, also by community people, by the youth, by women, by also governments. So we have to collaborate, and we believe that this huge challenge from glaciers to ocean can be moving towards solutions if we collaborate together. Thank you very, very much, and thank you very much for the audience to stay with us until the last moment. Thank you very much.